Interview with Gerry Stellenberg of Multimorphic. Interview with Daniel Jansen of Pinball Brothers. Interview with Chris Turner of Turner Pinball. An interview with Jack Guarnieri of Jersey Jack Pinball.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Jansen. I'm the editor of Pinball Magazine, and I'm joined here by...
Hi, I'm Martin Abe, and I'm the editor of Pinball News, and we're here with a special bonus PINcast where we are featuring 4 interviews, which we, Jonathan and myself, did with 4 luminaries from the pinball business. As you heard, Gerry, Daniel, Chris, and Jack, where they can tell us all about the current status of their companies, their latest products, and their thoughts on the pinball business as a whole.
Right. So, we already did the regular monthly recap or summary, if you want to call it, focusing on the Texas Pinball Festival and all the new games there. So, without further ado, let's start things off with the interview that we did with Gerry Stellenberg of Multimorphic at the Multimorphic studio, where Martin and I were able to pay a visit.
Yes, we were. Gerry was gracious enough to show us around, take time out of his very busy schedule in the run up to the show, and sit down with us after giving us a guided tour and letting us play the games, to talk about what's been happening with his company, his latest game, and where the company is headed.
So we're here in Round Rock at the headquarters of Multimorphic Inc. And Jonathan and I are joined by the owner, CEO, founder.
Engineer,
really?
Gerry Stellenberg.
Yes, welcome, Gerry.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Well, we're doing okay. We're still ahead of the TPF show, so we got a little time to talk to you. Thank you for making time in your busy schedule.
Yeah, how is the TPF for the Texas show for you? Is it a sort of a landmark show for you? Because it's your nearest big show that you go to. You've got Houston as well, of course, but I guess you do at least as much for Texas Pinball Festival.
Yes, TPF and Houston are both around the same distance from here in Round Rock, but TPF being a bigger show and being one where a lot of companies do big announcements and stuff, we like to do that one really big. So we generally take 6, 7, 8, 10 machines. We'll have 10 machines there this year, 10 P3s, all set up with different games. And we spend a lot of time planning and bringing a bunch of people to help us in the booth. So it's a big thing for us.
So what will be the big announcement this year?
The big announcement has already happened. We announced Final Resistance, a game. Scott Denisi was the creative designer. It's a new game for the P3. We have Bowen Cairns, Michael Ocean, Rory Cernuda, TJ Weaver doing the mechanicals on it. Really cool game. It's our 6th Multimorphic game module for the P3 machine. So this platform machine that we came up with 5 years ago, or we started selling 5 years ago now, has a lot of game modules for it and a lot of software add-ons, and basically we're continuing to add more content and new features for our customers.
Well, Jonathan and I have just been playing it, and we can certainly attest that it's very addictive and great fun.
It
very
has
fast,
that one more game factor.
Well, at least one more game.
At least one more game.
But you mentioned that it's a busy time for game releases. How does your announcement of your new game, how does that fit in with other companies announcing, or do you just ignore what the others are doing and release your game when it's ready?
Besides the fact that our game is better than everybody else's, the P3 is a little different than a traditional pinball machine in that it's this multi-game system where people can buy the P3 and they can buy it with the new games, but they can also add in any of the old games we've ever developed. Cosmic Car Racing, Lexi Lightspeed, even the first games that we've developed.
Like a console for video games, but this is for pinball.
Right. So our whole business model is getting people to buy into the platform and then helping them keep that system running. We want them to continue owning the P3 for as long as we are making games, and we want to make it attractive for them to add content to it. So releasing a game while other people are releasing new machines, we're not really competing directly against them so much. That yes, people have a certain amount of money and they're making buying decisions and they're deciding which game they want right now. But whether they buy Final Resistance right now or later, It doesn't matter to us. As long as they have and enjoy a P3, they can always add the game content to it. However, there's one important thing that matters today, which is we have a build queue. We have a lot of people that have ordered the machine starting back with our first games, but it exploded when we announced Weird Al last year.
Well, I was hoping you would bring that up, and else I would ask the question, because up to Weird Al, you hadn't done any licensed game. It was all original themes.
Right.
And then you announced Weird Al Natural Museum of... Sorry. No,
Museum of Natural Hilarity.
that's the one, sorry. You announced the game, and immediately you're $1 million+ company with orders coming in that basically tell you, like, hire more people because we need to crank out games. How has that affected you and the company in a positive or negative way? But I can imagine that such a license and the impact that had on your company must have done something.
So every business owner is hoping to sell a product that has explosive growth.
Right.
And we achieved that explosive growth with Weird Al's Museum of Natural Hilarity. It was our first licensed game, as you suggested, but we're still a small company, and we still need to make sure that we grow responsibly. So we couldn't go out the next day and hire the 300 people to build all these machines. We wouldn't be able to manage them. We wouldn't have all the parts for them. We, again, are a small company. So this is a problem. It's one of those good problems to have, right? How do you grow to responsibly bring on more people, manage your supply chain, manage all of the individual contributors to the projects? How do you do that responsibly? And I say responsibly because if you do it poorly, you're going to put your company in danger. If you spend too much money, if you bring on too many people that you can't manage, then you're in trouble because you can't manage them effectively. So we are continuing to scale up. We started scaling up when the orders came in for Weird Al's game last year. We're continuing to add people, a couple people a week or a few people a quarter, depending on how quickly we chose to increase our build queue. And then we have to manage the supply chain around that. We have to make sure parts are coming in as quickly, or if not quicker, than parts are going out. We want to keep building up through the end of the current build queue. And our build queue right now is a year long. So many people bought Weird Al, and so many people are continuing to buy into the P3 system now with
Congratulations.
with the new launch, that we have to continue scaling. Because I don't want the build queue to remain a year. I want to get it down to 3 months, 6 months, so that when we launch a new game, people can get it very quickly.
Well, once upon a time, people ordered the game, and the idea of waiting a year until they received it was preposterous. But it does seem to be almost a standard now for a lot of the new releases that come out, that people, especially if they're buying, not the highest end model, then they could potentially be waiting a year or 18 months or more for them. You're not finding that year wait is deterring people from buying into the P3 system then?
So, I don't know how many people it's turning away. I know I read the forums like everybody else, and there are people who comment and say, I would buy it if I could get one in 3 months or 6 months. I don't want to wait a year. But no, our build queue is growing. More people are realizing the value of owning a P3. And that's where I was going before. With the launch of Final Resistance, people that buy the P3 today won't see their machine until 8, 10, 12 months from now. And in those 8, 10, 12 months, we're going to release at least one more game, possibly more. And so people who want the machine immediately next year, they better buy it today. They better get in queue today. So we're only asking for a deposit up front. We don't ask for full payment on the machine. People who saw the announcement for Final Resistance, who got pushed over the edge of interest and want to join the P3 family, want to own the system, they should be getting in today so that they have their machine when we launch the next games.
Right. So you mentioned, we knew already that Multimorphic is doing or releasing 2 playfield modules this year. Final Resistance being the first one. Any timeline on when we can expect the second?
You already said the timeline.
Well, this year.
two machines this year, or 2 games this year. Yeah, and you can even guess. We're not going to release 2 games back to back. That would be stupid business to steal sales from one game with the launch of a second game at the same time. But how many more months are there in the year? So somewhere in those months, we will release another game.
Right. Okay.
But does the backlog of existing orders influence when you can release the next game? Because if you're already building, say, Weird Al games, and then you're doing Final Resistance games, and then you release a third or announce a third one, then those orders will, for the modules alone, will go to the back of the queue behind the existing games that you're building. So then those people could be waiting a year just for the module.
Right. If you really have popular
and
games.
the more you do this, and the more successful they are, the worse it's going to get.
So not exactly. We have multiple build queues right now. We have one long build queue for the machine because so many people have bought into the P3 system, and it takes more time and more people and more materials to put a full machine together. On the floor, we have multiple production lines for various playfield modules. So we have a dedicated section that's building Weird Al playfields right now. There's another dedicated section right now that's building Heist playfields because most of the people who buy into the P3 for Weird Al are buying it immediately with Heist as well. We have some inventory that we're working through on our Lexi Lightspeeds and Cosmic Kart Racings, but as we need to schedule time in to build those, we take different resources and build those. Final Resistance production begins in May. It's March right now. So in the next 2 months, we'll be staffing up a fully independent, a separate production line for the Final Resistance playfields. And if we announce another game by the end of the year, which is what we expect to do, we'll do the same thing. So, because we don't want people buying the new game to have to wait behind, I should clarify, we don't want people buying the new game kit for their existing game, for their existing P3 to have to wait behind previously announced game kits. So we will have shipped all Weird Al playfields to existing customers before May. And when May hits, we'll be able to start building Final Resistance for existing customers. And people waiting for a P3 will just get it when their P3 is ready.
How does the fact that the sort of parallel queues, a queue for the entire machine that will have a playfield or more than one with it, how do those playfields match up with the queue for those match up with the people who just buy the kit by itself? No, so if I bought a brand new machine now with a Weird Al in, that playfield the playfield module for that would be made later, will be at the end of the Weird Al queue.
Correct.
Right, so...
Correct. So right now we have multiple, you saw the tables out there, we have multiple sections for Weird Al, and we call those, logistically, they're separate queues. So we have a queue that's building Weird Al playfields for the machines that are coming off the line,
right,
and we have a separate queue of Weird Al playfields that are going to existing customers.
Right, for the kids.
So
right, yeah.
all existing customers will get their playfields before we're anywhere near the end of the P3, the machine build queue for... even for Weird Al orders.
Right, okay. Now the last time Martin and I visited this location, that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And since then, you more than doubled in size. Can you talk about what have you been, you had already your parts stocked over here, but now you're also doing
woodworking.
The woodworking. Mm-hmm. You're making your own cabinets in here, and the playfields and
spraying them as well.
So there's a lot of more work involved in expanding like that. Can you talk about it? How it is? I mean, the source of people working here is not unlimited.
Right. So we're all about figuring out ways to improve our efficiencies, but doing it, like I said earlier, responsibly. When we were building P3s before with half the space, that space was fully used for assembly of all of the machine parts into a machine and all the playfield parts into playfields. And we were outsourcing, we were buying from cabinet makers, external cabinet makers, the machine, the the cabinet, the wooden box that all this stuff goes into. For various reasons, it made more sense to bring that in-house. We bought our own 5 by 10 foot CNC router. We buy the raw sheets of plywood and throw them on that thing, and out comes panels for cabinets. We also cut our own playfields now, which we were outsourcing before. So we're in control of our own destiny as far as all of the woodworking required to go into these machines. And woodworking is something that it's skilled labor, but it's commonly learned skilled labor. There are a lot of woodworkers, a lot of carpenters, a lot of people who are comfortable putting cabinets together and sanding wood and installing inserts and prepping a playfield. We don't have our own printers and our own metal bending machines and all of the things that require huge investments and specialty skills in order to do. But we're super glad that we got the other space and we're able to start doing our own woodworking, because when we need 5 more cabinets, we just pull them out of the paint booth and start assembling.
Now, one of the things we were talking about before was the supply of parts for machines, and the fact you can't just go and ramp up production as fast as you necessarily would like in order to produce more kits and more complete machines. A lot of companies have been heavily impacted by supply chain issues, and I'm sure you're not immune to that as well. What's the situation as far as you're seeing when it comes to supplies of like electronics and the more difficult to source parts?
So COVID has been a problem for every part of every aspect of every situation in business. Basically, everything's been affected. Everything's more expensive. Everything's harder to get. We knew, I'm an electronic engineer. I was a double E in school, and that's what I did for most of my career. So I'm more in tune with the electronic supply chain than some of the mechanical stuff. So I was pretty ahead of the game on ordering circuit boards and the chips needed to make those circuit boards with our partner manufacturers. So we did not have a slowdown of circuit board availability. What we found is that some of the suppliers of chips and things have changed course over the course of COVID, and they've decided to make more of one chip and less of another chip or whatever. So we've had to navigate those challenges, but it's pretty easy for us to change a board to use a different chip, because that's how I used to make my living, and we have a couple of people here who can help with that. The metal, the plastics, all of those things, the supply never really dried up on those. They just got more expensive and take a little bit longer.
And wood?
Wood certainly ramped way up there in the middle of things, but we never lost supply of those. We just had to spend more money. So we have a lumber yard actually less than a mile away from our factory where they've had a constant supply of the Baltic birch and stuff we use for our playfields and cabinet, MDF, and 1/2-inch, 3/4-inch plywood. Those kind of things have been flowing pretty freely. It's the length of time that's really affected us. It takes to get some specialty parts made overseas. You have to have about a 6-month window where they're going to build them and then they get put on a boat. And it used to take 2 to 3 weeks to get overseas on a boat. Now it takes 2 to 3 months. So everything has to be planned a little more carefully, and everything has to be purchased well in advance of you needing those parts. We've managed. It's been a challenge, but so far, so good.
So has, over the years, your role in the company changed, other than being involved with far more strategic ordering of parts and finding solutions for parts that are no longer available? And I mean, you started out as a small company. Aside from the big bang when you announced Weird Al, I mean, everything changed with COVID. And I mean, you're one of the few hands-on owners of a company that's really involved in almost every aspect of the company. So how do you manage?
I started a company because I wanted to be in control of my own life, my own decision making. I wanted to be the one to blame if I made a wrong decision, because I don't like thinking man, I could have made a better decision. I could have avoided that problem if I made the decision. So I have my hands in most aspects of the company. I hired people to help where I needed specific skill sets. We have TJ, he's a brilliant mechanical engineer. He does all our mechanical design. I work with a lot of different software people all over the world, actually. We have VJs in New Zealand and Michael Ocean's in Connecticut or Massachusetts or Connecticut or Massachusetts. He's in Massachusetts. We have people over Rory's in California, our graphic animator. We have people all over the world to do our creative process. I participate in those meetings and design decisions and game design, but I offload a lot of the specific tasks to other people. I don't do the assembly anymore. I used to be turning a screwdriver with everyone else. We all used to because we didn't have enough resources. So I've built every sub-assembly that goes in these machines myself. Sarah, my wife, has. Sarah built the first 100 heist game kits to ship out.
Wow.
Sarah built them herself. Now we have a team of people who are building heists and Weird Owls and everything else. But I'm still here doing everything that needs to be done. What I like to say is I hired people to do very specific things, build playfields or do mechanical engineering, and I literally do everything else.
Right, but you still test play every game before it goes out the door.
I do, yes, because I want to know for sure that every machine we ship worked properly when it left this building. And I can say that with 100% certainty because I tested them.
Now, we talked about the changes that have been taking place here, and as part of your new building next door, you have a kind of mini museum of the history of the P3, from the very first iterations all the way up to the current ones. Now, even now, things do change from different versions or different builds of the base P3 cabinet. Things like the scoops and walls, they change from solenoids to motor driven. They've got upper flippers added now. How do you manage any future changes to the base kind of platform, which will still be backwardly compatible with all the existing machines that are out there, and while adding extra features or more reliability to the actual game itself, or to the physical game itself? Because that must be, knowing that there's so many of those machines built out there and they all need to be able to work with every kit that you produce, you can't go making massive changes to the base of the P3, can you?
So everything is a measured decision. There are pros and cons in making changes, and the impacts they have on future design decisions are real. So far, the changes we've made have all been functional changes that don't impact the rest of the system. And what I mean by that is we added a light panel, a light box to our back box to add backlit graphics. Well, the back box is just an aesthetic thing for the most part anyway, so that can be what the new machines are, and the old machines will still work fine without the backlit speaker panel, and that's just fine. However, we are making the upgraded back box available to old P3 owners.
We have to change things like flippers, the way the flippers are driven for a start. The flipper, and also obviously, as I mentioned, the walls and scoops are now motorized, both solenoid driven, and that's potentially changing further down the line, but we don't quite know yet.
But so far, all those changes are within the same form factor. So the wall and scoop module, yes, it's a new version, but it looks the same, it fits in the same space, and the only thing we had to change to use it with new software is software. We had to change the way that software talks to the controller boards that either drive a motor or drive a coil. The flippers, we did an upgrade kit that added some functionality, that added into stroke switches to our floating flipper assembly. Again, just software changes. In fact, software is smart enough that it can detect whether that switch is present or not, and it'll drive the flipper differently depending on whether or not it's doing a timed pulse or a stroke-based pulse or however it needs to be most efficient. So far, we haven't done any what I call platform breaking changes. And if we ever did, we would come out with a new product, a P4 or a P5 or whatever. But so far, we're completely focused on this P3. We want to keep adding value. We want to keep doing upgrades in a way that people can continue improving the playing experience on the machine that they own.
The latest game, Final Resistance, uses static inserts on the playfield monitor. So the ball rolls on the monitor. The inserts are animated, but they are in a static place, and they are always there, which is a feature that I personally appreciate very much, and I understood that more people are fond of it. But what if this is a direction that you really didn't want the platform to go to?
I don't have a strong opinion about where the platform should go. I have a strong opinion about what I like, what I enjoy. And the company started out with me delivering experiences that I was passionate about. So being able to tell a story on the playfield is really important to me, because that's where you're looking when you're playing. You're looking at the flippers and maybe a little bit above the flippers to see where the ball needs to go or have the ball coming in. So presenting information on that screen, on that playfield service in a way people can connect more with the story is what's important to me. We've done that in different ways over the years. In all of our games, we present information in a different way. Scott Denisi's vision grew out of his Total Nuclear Annihilation game and kind of what he did on Rick and Morty. And he has a way of designing things in a presentation style that people connect well with. So, of course, we wanted to leverage those connections, allow him the freedom to create a game that presents according to his vision. And I have no problem with the way it's presented. I quite like it myself. And I'm in pinball. I'm building a pinball machine, and I own a pinball company because I love pinball. I love traditional pinball. Static artwork is great. I have old machines in my house. I love them. And Scott's tying into that traditional kind of presentation. And we'll probably do a lot more games with traditional styles of presentation, but we're absolutely going to keep doing games that present information and moving graphics and things in a way that tell a story better. Because ultimately, I believe the P3 is the most immersive pinball experience on the market, and it's the best storytelling platform or machine available because we can present information and we can tell that story while you're playing the game.
Can you tell us a little bit about how Final Resistance came about? Now, how did Scott end up here with Multimorphic and producing his next game with you and becoming part of the design team? Who approached who, and what was the process by which you settled on exactly how this game was going to be developed?
Yeah, Scott and I go way back. I met Scott in 2011 when I was developing the P-Rock, and he was interested in the P-Rock for a custom project he was doing. So this is a board that people can use to customize games or create new custom games. We have a community of P-Rock users and developers, and I've developed some pretty good friends in the community, and we have some chat channels where we're talking literally daily. Scott and I and a bunch of other of the early developers literally talk every day and have for the last 10 years on these online forums or whatever. So I've always known what Scott's been working on. He's always known what I've been working on. He seemed to have an interest in the P3. He bought one for himself a couple of years ago. And he's the type of guy who's always thinking about how to connect people with that traditional style of gameplay. So he came to me and he said, hey, I have an idea. I think it would be great to build this game concept out on a P3. I think people will really connect to it. Can I do it? Do you want me to do it? Can you help me do it? And Scott had the vision, and we put the resources around him to allow him to be successful doing that.
So is that a one and done, or is it the start of a beautiful friendship?
I mean, it's always been a beautiful friendship. He's used the P-Rock board in all of his games throughout his career, so we already have a mutually beneficial friendship and relationship. We're pretty good friends. TBD. We'll see. Maybe you'll see another Denisi game on the P3. Maybe you won't. But if I were betting,
yeah,
I would lean on that friendship that he and I have and expect more cool stuff to come.
It's been a pleasurable experience in developing Final Resistance.
We are still friends. We are still good friends.
Right. So, any chance for the final? Well, the chance is always there, of course, but the Final Resistance, the game itself is there. But any chance for a different game using the same playfield module, expanding on the same theme, so to speak?
Final Resistance 2.0.
Yeah, or
even more Final
So I won't go
Ultimate Resistance.
I won't go too much into our plans and roadmaps and business strategies, but I will say that we've always wanted to continue increasing the value of the products we sell. Cosmic Kart Racing is a game that came out with a game software for it. It was the racing game. And then we added a whole new rule set for it called Career Mode, Cosmic Kart Racing Career Mode. And then we added a wholly new software game called Sorcerer's Apprentice that uses the same playfield and is a whole new experience. We want to continue giving people more value for their money. It makes us different than every other pinball manufacturer out there. We don't want you to sell your machine to make room for a new game. We want to continue giving you value for your purchase, and we will continue doing that.
So if I looked at Cosmic Kart Racing playfield and said, I've got this really cool idea for a game that could run on that, I come to you and say, Gerry, I've got a really good idea for a game that could run on this, and you say, what?
I say one of two things. Either I love the idea, let's build it together, or I say, Martin, we have a fully open development kit that you can use, team up with your development friends and do it yourself. We give you all the tools to do it yourself. So there are a few third-party designers that have created content for the P3. They've done that on the backs of our development kit.
But in order to get that game into the P3 infrastructure, it needs to be approved and integrated by you and your team.
Yes, we have an approval process. So if you had that game idea, you would come to us and say, I want to build it. We would say, here's our development kit, which you can freely download from our website, by the way. You can download it, you can fully develop it. You could pitch it to me as a fully developed product and say, here's the game. And then, yes, we have an approval process to make sure the game interacts with our system properly, that it's not going to blow up coils or lock on things or do anything bad to the system. We want to make sure the content kind of meets our...
Well, that was the next question. If I want to do a Pulp Fiction type game with language which is of an adult genre, is that the kind of thing which would get approval, or is it still sort of very much a family-friendly... would need to be a family-friendly theme or presentation?
We've done family-friendly themes up to this point, or implementations, but no, we're not necessarily tied to that. We would just want to protect the content in a way that, I don't know, parental controls or something. We'd want to build something into the framework to make sure that parents can make sure kids aren't seeing things or hearing things that they shouldn't be. But yeah, we're not opposed to any of that stuff.
To round things up, all credits to Scott and his team for Final Resistance, which is a really fun game, I have to say. There is another game coming, and we can guess who's working on that. Can you tell us anything about whether that will be a licensed game or an original theme?
I cannot. So we have a corporate strategy now where we want to release both. We want to continue doing original themes because we can sell them basically forever. We can make it sell them forever. And licensed themes have generally a term, some amount of time you're allowed to sell it for. So in order to make the P3 a long-term good value proposition for people, we want to continue building original themes games. But obviously we all know the power of a license. We saw it with the Weird Al license, and we have licenses in our pocket that are turning into games that will be coming. So I won't say what the next one is. I will say we will be doing both moving forward.
Just picking up something you mentioned there, though, if you do a license, say, not Weird Al as such, but any licensed game with its own playfield module, does that then prevent any other software running on that same module? You know, if I got a Weird Al playfield and it's got all Weird Al stuff all over it and pictures of Weird Al, and then I go and do a blood and gore type game that's nothing to do with Weird Al and run it on there, that would seem to be against the idea of licensing.
It's a conversation that we have with every licensor. We talk to you, should we lock this playfield down, or are you open to allowing third-party or future multimorphic developed apps to work on it? It's a discussion point.
There's no hard and fast rule then for each one. Correct. But is Weird Al open to other games being made on it?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess that rounds it up for Multimorphic here in Round Rock.
Well, thank you, Gerry. Thanks for taking time out in what's obviously a very busy time in the run-up to the show.
Thank you guys for coming down and seeing the factories. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, so we wish you a very successful Texas Pinball Festival.
Thank you.
And we'll see you there.
And there you have it, Gerry Stellenberg of Multimorphic. Thank you very much for your time.
Indeed. Thank you, Gerry.
Yeah. Well, that's 1 of 4, so 1 down, 3 to go. And let's move on right away with Daniel Jansen, who is the CEO, I suppose we can call him.
So.
Yeah, of Pinball Brothers. Daniel is based in Sweden, in the city of Örebro.
It's easy for you to say.
Yeah. And of course he's he's not alone. He has brothers, so to speak, who are not part of this interview, but he'll explain a little bit about that. Most of them are in Scandinavia as well. One is in Germany, and of course they have the Queen game, which they have been working on, and the highly successful Alien game, and they announced a new company, which is the combination of forces of Pinball Brothers and Pedretti Gaming.
Yes, indeed. Euro Pinball Corp, which was not entirely clear exactly what that entity was, what the business was, but we'll clear that up when we speak to Daniel, because he was kind enough to take time out from the Texas Pinball Festival, where he had a very busy show, but he sat down with us in a little side room there, and we were able to clarify that and find out more about what's going on with Pinball Brothers and the Queen game and their future plans.
So we're joined by Daniel Jansen of Pinball Brothers, or should I say Euro Pinball Corporation?
Pinball Brothers, I think, but you can say both. That's right. That's fine.
Well, on that basis, can you clarify exactly what Euro Pinball Corp is? Yeah. I know it's a collaboration with you and Pedretti Gaming, but you still exist as individual entities. But what does Euro Pinball do?
Yeah.
I was going to do a longer intro, introduce it to talking about Alien and Queen, so that the listeners.
Well, only because you mentioned Euro Pinball right at the start. I mean, you've blown the gaff, really. It's,
we hardly ever do this, but we're going to start over.
Well, this is great.
Okay, we're not going to start over, but so Daniel Jansen runs a company called Free Play in Sweden, which is pinball parts, and you also sell machines?
Yeah, but
okay. He's also the head of Pinball Brothers, who recently merged with Pedretti Gaming, forming Euro Pinball Corp.
Well,
at least that's the way we understand it, but we're here to get some clarifications.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thank you. I think I have to correct you on the word merge, because there isn't really a merge. It's I can give you the background. It's quite simple, really. We Pinball Brothers have been working with Pedretti for 2 years or a little more, I think, and they have manufactured our games
And so that's Alien and Queen.
Yeah,
so far.
Correct. And this partnership has just been deepened along the way, and we decided to join the forces basically when it comes to manufacturing. So we founded the Pinball Corp as it's basically a manufacturing plant,
Right.
A factory.
Okay. So does that mean that Pedretti is still doing their own stuff like 2.0 kits and toppers and that kind
and
of
this
stuff?
is a new facility that you're putting together, or is it taking over a facility that Pedretti previously had?
Yeah, it's a new facility, but it's very close to the Pedretti premises. So it's just 5 minutes walk between the premises.
Right, so a new manufacturing facility under the Pinball Corp name, but the designs for it still come from Pinball Brothers.
Exactly.
And Pedretti provide what?
Pedretti.
They run the manufacturing aspect of it, or
some stuff from Pedretti moved. I should clarify that. Basically, all the stuff that previously manufactured the games for Pinball Brothers at Pedretti moved into Pinball Corp.
Right. Okay. So is the intention that Pinball Corp will only produce games supplied by Pinball or designed by Pinball Brothers and marketed by you and built? Well, what's Pedretti's interest ongoing in that then? Because they're obviously doing their own stuff as well.
Yeah, but they do. They focus primarily, as before, on the 2.0 kits and
as
some
far as pinball
stuff
goes, but they do other non-pinball products as well, don't they? When they're Pedretti Gaming.
Yeah, but I actually I guess that is a question for Marco, who runs Pedretti Gaming, to answer. But I think today, I mean, historically, Pedretti Gaming, I think they have been around for 50 years or something like that. So it's a family business. So they have been, I know that they have been doing jukeboxes and slot machines and some other stuff. Right. So, but I'm not sure how much of that they are doing these days.
And going forward, games will be branded as Pinball games or Pinball Brothers games?
Pinball Brothers games.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, right. Okay. So it sort of makes me wonder, with Pedretti being so long in the business, how did you find them?
It actually started with free play, because I got to know them as a distributor for their parts. They have been doing parts for licensed parts from Turner Pinball. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
the Williams Valleys.
Exactly. Parts, yeah. So free play became a distributor. So I've known them I had known them for a couple of years before we sort of started talking about manufacturing of pinball machines. So it wasn't a new it was a new partnership for Pinball Brothers, but we knew each other from before.
Right. Okay. So now we're here at Texas Pinball Festival. You brought Alien, you brought Queen. Queen has developed quite a bit since Pinball Expo, when it was first public showing, I would say. What can people expect if they play Queen? When they play Queen, I should say.
Today, I think they should expect sort of a much more immersive game than they experienced at Expo, because Expo was very early when it comes to software, especially. The rules were quite shallow, and also there's been a lot of more work done made in the area of content, animations, sound. So for me, I think the version we have here today is really a sort of a complete package that is much more of a ready game.
So when it comes to first showing a game in a public location like Pinball Expo or here at the Texas Film Festival, what are the driving forces that let you say, yes, this game is ready to show people? Or it's simply the fact that the show is here, we've got to have the game ready for that, and whatever state it's in at that point, we're going to show it, and we'll get feedback on what people think about it and incorporate that into the future. Because the ideal thing would be you would turn up at the show with your game, with complete code, and
Everybody
everyone would be blown away by it. But you're having to do a certain amount of sort of expectation management early on, and saying, well, this is not finished code, there'll be more, and show it later.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess the answer to your question is a mix of all of that. I think that to some degree you want to show the game to get feedback because you actually use the feedback. It's important to get feedback from experienced pinball players who can say what they like and what they don't like. But at the same time, we obviously have a sort of a development plan for the game. So there could be things reconsidered, obviously, from the feedback. But the main course is already set for what we want from the game. But why the decision to show a game at a certain point is really hard to say. It's a sort of a it's always a you have to make that decision at some point.
Yes, right.
Is the game good enough to show? And we thought it was, really. It's shooting great, and you can get a sense for the game, and then from that point it only will sort of improve.
And the physical aspects of it are not really going to change.
Exactly
what the shots are, the ramps and the lanes, and all you're going to do is enhance the package that surrounds that. The multimedia, the rule set.
Exactly like that. And I think the feedback that we got from Expo, for instance, you always collect audits, so you can see how hard the game is to play. And in the end, I think that is pretty important. Even if you make a great game, I think if you don't get the balance right, it can really ruin the game. So it's very important to we maybe we wasn't surprised, but we had confirmed that the game is really hard, and that made us do some changes. So if you play it today, it is probably a little bit easier with standard settings.
You see more of the game.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we want. So
now, if we're talking about Queen, that game has had an unusually long development cycle, I would say, in the sense that it was shown in London first at the pop-up store for Queen merchandise, and then it took 11 months before the game finally got announced, with some changes, visible changes, noticeable, but the code is still being worked on right now, and we're like 5 months after Expo. So is there a reason why there was such a long gap between the first showing of the game and where we are now? Obviously, you had the merge with, or the Euro Pinball situation with Pedretti, which also took up time, I assume. But still.
Yeah, but I think that again there are multiple answers to the question. I think that first of all, the showing at the pop-up store was very, very early, and it was made from sort of marketing reasons, not entirely decided by us, if I put it that way. That said, I think it was still fun to show it to people, and so there was no harm to that. And of course, we wanted to have the game completed or announced earlier. So the 11, if that was the 11-month or 8-month gap.
It was in January of 20...
It was in September 21 that we showed the game at the pop-up store.
Oh, was it September?
End of September, okay. I think 30.
Oh yeah, it ran till January.
And that's what I was thinking of. Yeah. I should know. I was there.
yeah. We met there.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we did indeed. But that was I couldn't even call it a prototype. It was an example, a representative sample of what the game would look like when it was completed. Yeah. It was unplayable at that point because there were big parts of it missing.
Yeah, and we, I mean, coils and stuff wasn't even connected. It was meant to be sort of a jukebox, basically, in the store. So it's
which it did very well. I have to say.
Yeah, sure. We got a lot of positive feedback. So and Queen was happy, and the management was happy. So it was all good. But I think that even if we wanted the time after the showing at that shop was, we would have wanted it to be shorter for sure. But I mean, there's a lot of struggles going on still with the post-COVID situation and
supply chain issues.
Supply chains. Yeah, exactly. So and as a fairly small company, we have to focus on we have to make prioritizations. Is that right?
Okay.
So prioritize basically. So I wouldn't say that we stopped working, but it took longer, and we had to prioritize the production of Alien in the meantime. So that's.
So when it comes to things like software updates, I mean, we were talking about that recently. What's the process? And you've done 2 licensed titles. You've done Alien and Queen. Are those very similar in the way that when you produce an update to it, you have to get that past the licensor? Or is it actually a lot easier than that? And that once if you want to add some new code to Alien or to Queen, it doesn't have to go back to the licensor, be approved, and you can just put it out there. I don't think people really understand how the licensing works, how detailed it is, or whether it's a lot more sort of broad brush and they say, okay, well, as long as you don't add any more assets or use stuff which we hadn't already agreed, you can do whatever you want with it.
It's basically like what you said last,
right.
That you normally you get a sort of a certain amount of assets, and those are approved, and those are the ones you can work with, both from the digital content, the sounds, and also the art. So, but what you can do, obviously, is that you can always submit for approval of using new assets.
Yes.
But that is, I think that is quite, at least for us, that is uncommon. We do have the assets that we work with. So the animations and the sounds and all that is included today, there wasn't there at Expo. They were all sort of already in the agreement.
Right.
So
okay, but that could be animations which you've created.
Yeah.
Not necessarily using any assets from the licensor. It could just be your own internally generated graphics.
Sure.
Or movie clips, or say jackpot animation or something like that. It doesn't include licensed assets itself. You're allowed to add all those as much as you like.
Yeah.
And that's the case for, was it Fox that does Alien? And
from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then they were acquired by Disney in 2019, I think, 2020. So when we relaunched Alien, Disney was the licensor.
And who does the Queen stuff? Is that Bravado or is that someone else now?
Yeah, that's Bravado.
It is Bravado.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I actually want to talk about a little bit about the company structure within Pinball Brothers, because you run your free play company. At shows we see people like Roger, like Kato, and a few others, depending on which show you go to. So how is Pinball Brothers sort of structured so that we can get a better idea of how the company functions?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I can fully understand that could be hard to see from the outside. So, but basically we were a number of founders of Pinball Brothers and shareholders, and we worked closely together. And then, as we have evolved as a company, and then you have to add more people, and you have to create an organization for that. And at that point, that is maybe 1.5 years back or something like that. I was appointed CEO, and Roger and Kato decided not to be sort of part of the daily operations, and also some of the other shareholders. So it's nothing sort of strange in that. Why we are all, I mean, even if they are not part of the daily operations, everybody loves pinball and loves the industry and are interested in the products, so that's why we all meet at shows and so on, and we'll continue to do so, I guess.
Right. Okay, so, but so for example, Roger and Kato are not part of the daily operations, but if there is a pinball design on the table, do they have input in what they think it should do or the direction it should go in, or are they more in the background and?
Yeah, these days they are in the background, but that doesn't mean that it always has to be like that. I mean, right, for the last 18 months, I've been in charge of the company and run it and hire people in different positions and build the organization together with Marco, who is CEO for EPC. But that could obviously change in the future. Right. So some of the other shareholders could at some point step in and do more. It's a sort of a evolving thing, I think. So because everybody are very much involved in pinball in general. So
it seems like you have a pretty functional and forward-focused organisation now with your manufacturing partners. What's the focus of Pinball Brothers now then? Is it on developing Queen and basically getting that out there in as many units as possible and marketing it, or is that done and you're now looking forward to the next game?
Yeah, we. If I start by repeating about the situation with the long time for making Queen happen, at that point we had fewer resources than we have today. So we are in a much better place now to run projects in parallel to production. And so I would say that now that Queen is sort of in production, we are very much into designing and preparing for new titles. So and that's a really great feeling, because we have been to some extent you can say we have been on the back foot for a long time and having to play catch up for a long time. So we are much more on top of that now, and with production now at EPC running well and hopefully increasing over the year next year. We hope to add a couple of more games in the
not so distant scale for that?
Licensed titles or original themes?
There could be. I mean, mainly these days it's really hard to do something other than licensed games, I would say, for a small company. But I know others are doing that, but for us it's been licensed. That is the focus.
Right. Okay. So, as a pinball manufacturer here at the Texas Pinball Festival, during setup, the show still has to start. But the past 2 weeks, like 6 new games were announced and are here at the show. What's your point of view or perspective in all that? Obviously, you look at what your competition is doing. Is it a situation that, well, explain us how you feel about the current situation, let's put it like that.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. That does it affect our way of thinking that there is suddenly a very crowded field and a lot of competition where there wasn't that the case in 2 years ago or 3 years ago? But I mean, I think it's just great. I mean, for us, it's just great when there's a lot of pinball machines being made. We just have to that just means that we have to acquire licenses or making designs that really appeal to people to buy our games. So, and I'm not. I still think that maybe naive, but that the industry is growing, and as long as the industry is growing, it isn't really competition. It's more like diversity, or it's I mean, like Queen, for instance. Maybe there are people deciding between having a Scooby-Doo or Queen, but I mean it's very different things. So if you're a Scooby-Doo fan, you probably would go for that, and if you like Queen, you might go for that. So it's yeah.
Now, looking ahead to future games, to a great extent, I'd say the first two titles were, I won't say inherited, but they were developed by other people, and now you're at the point where you're going to be developing your own titles, entirely Pinball Brothers, with no inheritance from any previous companies.
Previous company with a bad reputation.
Well, let's not go there. But so people know who developed or who designed Alien. They know who designed, more or less, or who designed Queen. Who's working now? Who's in your team? Basically, in designing new games, because we want names. We want to know who to give the credit to. Because rather than some unnamed, nameless people who designed this game, we want to better put names to faces.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that
come the secrets.
maybe not. As you say, we know who did those games. Yes and no, because I think that Alien started off like with a design from Dennis Nordman.
Well, it had a lot of changes along the way. Yes,
exactly. And then Dave Sanders worked on it, and then for Queen we had Barry Oursler doing the original design, and then that has been reworked to a standard game, and then we have been working on it internally. So I might be a bit boring, but saying that I think maybe it's the I mean, in the US, most games have one single game designer, but our sort of way of working is more team-based, I think. So that means that we, for next title, I would say we are designing it as a team. But
I think most game design teams have what they used to call a game daddy at Williams, which was
a game lead.
Was the person who was in charge, who would make the big decision to say, yes, that shot is too tight, or it needs to be widened up, and in collaboration with the rest of the team. And we were talking to Gerry Stellenberg about this, and they have a very similar collaborative process there at Multimorphic, and how they put their game together. But they still have a lead designer for each one.
And people have sort of assigned jobs. Somebody is in charge of sounds and music, and you're not going to ask your sound guy to program the game.
No.
Yeah, and also that
even if I know that David Thiel is actually programming also, so it's but it also comes with a certain amount of cachet as well. In that you can say, oh, this is a game by, or it was developed by such and such a person, and they go, who's also worked on this, worked on that. Then particularly at Multimorphic, we talked about Scott Denisi and his current game. When you know it's a Scott Denisi game, it's like, oh wow, it's a Scott Denisi game. That's really interesting.
Pulp Fiction is a Mark Ritchie game.
Yeah, exactly.
So he didn't do it alone. He had a lot of help from a lot of people. But
but culture is personality led.
It is.
So it helps you, I think, if you can build up your personalities of the design team.
Yeah, but I think this is it's no. I mean, this ties into I think the fact that the company has evolved from the original shareholders and then into a company with more people involved. So and that the games have taken quite a long time to design and to make. If you look at Queen, for instance, we have the guy who made the sort of final parts of the design is Alexander Spohr, which is one of the shareholders.
Yeah.
So in that aspect, it's fair to say that he was the lead design for Queen, and he sort of inherited the design from Barry and others along the way, and there were other people also involved in making decisions, as you say, like the others who collaborate. So in the future, I think that there will be there will definitely be a lead design for future games.
I just don't think you should be shy about celebrating the success of your designers. You should be say this is a great game led by with these people working on it, rather than, because at the moment it's like, well, nobody knows who worked on that game. Nobody knows really who was behind Queen.
Okay,
who was in the team.
Yeah, the credits for team for Queen is that Alexander is the guy who tied it together, and he's the sort of the lead designer for finalizing the game. And the original design is made by Barry, and then also Dave has been involved to make the game a standard body from a wide body. So so that's basically it.
Some people like to know who did the sound, who was the rules.
It's a band called Queen did the sounds.
Sure. No, David Thiel has been is doing the sounds.
Exactly. I mean, that's
together with Michael Stöckerman from Germany. So but you're right. I mean, we have been really sort of quite poor when it comes to
it's
letting people know this.
Yeah, we've only got 2 titles out. So
we still have time. We still have time to improve. And we will.
I just think it will be to your benefit to get your reputation. Built up.
Right. Okay. Now, of course, production of Queen is just started. So you hope to run the title for a very long time. But as you mentioned, you're also working on upcoming titles. Can you reveal anything, like, are we going to see a new Pinball Brothers game this year, or would it be next year, or 2025?
I would say within 12 months.
Of now.
Okay. So March 2024. So you should see...
Might be back here in 1 year's time with a new Pinball Brothers game.
It could be.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we wish you the best of luck developing that game.
Thank you very much.
Let's hope there's not such a big rush of new titles for March of next year. Then.
And we'd love to see you again next year here at the show, of course. And thank you for your time right now.
Thank you.
And there you have it, Daniel Jansen.
Thank you, Daniel.
Pinball Brothers, future looking very bright for them right now. So hopefully it all goes as planned, although it rarely ever does. But
they got their act together by the sounds of it. So so someone who's much earlier on that journey is Chris Turner. Of Turner Pinball. Now, we weren't expecting to see Chris, or indeed Turner Pinball, at the Texas Pinball Festival.
No, we didn't expect him to turn up.
No, and we certainly didn't expect him to turn up with a game. No. And indeed he did, as we reported in the main March.
Ninja Eclipse, the game is called. Yeah, you played it. You liked it, actually. So I
played it. In fact, one of the funny things was that when I played it, I think I got pretty much all the way through most of the game, and he said, "Oh, I've never seen anybody get that far, because it's only been us playing it so far in the factory, because this is before the show opened, so I was one of the first people to play it there." And he's saying, it's really different when you actually get people who are pinball people who know how to play the game.
But you're so good, Martin.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as lucky on that as you were with Pulp Fiction, but although it's obviously skill in your case. But anyway, it's
let's call it that. Yes,
it was a fun game to play, and it was a surprise to see him there, as I say, and it was a good opportunity to speak to Chris. We've seen his videos before where he explained how the company was formed and what the background of that company was. So you had a chance to talk to him and had the presence of mind to record that.
Yeah.
As an interview, and
let's see what I recorded.
Yeah, it's before the show started, but it was still in the hall during the setup. So it's a little bit of background noise, but perfectly legible and some good information from Chris. So let's hear what he has to say.
So I'm here with Chris Turner of Turner Pinball, who brought Ninja Eclipse, a totally new game that nobody saw coming, to Texas Pinball Festival. Well, Chris, how are you doing? And what can you tell about the game and Turner Pinball?
I'm doing great, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to meet you here today, and we're really excited to be here with our game. And we're really looking to get feedback from people that can play it right now. The people that have played it have really been limited to my team, and we've already had some really great players walk up and test out the game, and it's just neat to watch them work the different shots of the game, and I think it's going to give us an opportunity to learn and improve on this. This is our third version of this Whitewood, and we've got a prototype graphic applied for the show. We wanted to try to make it look as nice as we can. You can also see some of the lights. We've got all the main shot lights cut, but not all of them are there. And we just wanted to have enough there so people could play it and get a feel for the game, and enough to gather good feedback on the game.
Now, you bought a lot of assets from Deep Root Pinball when they went up in smoke.
Yes, sir.
This is not a Deep Root Pinball design inherited or anything like that.
No, sir, it's not.
Did you use elements from Deep Root Pinball designs that were part of what you bought and figured like, okay, well, I like how this looks, but not in that way, and I'm going to put it somewhere else?
This is actually an entirely new creation of ours. And so my strategy, first of all, the Deep Root stuff, there were a lot of people, including my team, that put a lot of effort and time into all that stuff. And I didn't want to see it all get thrown away. And so I tried to acquire that so that we could do something with it, but I didn't think that doing something with that as our first game was the right thing to do. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to come out with something that was completely our creation and prove ourselves that we can build something new that people like, and then work to get to the point where we can manufacture this and provide it to customers. And once we do that, I want to go back through some of those lesser known Deep Root titles, and I want to be able to finish what got started there and not let the work of so many people get thrown away.
Okay, well, it's a very nice and ambitious foresight, I would say.
I appreciate that. It's been a challenge getting this ready for the show.
Well, you made it already further than Deep Root because they never made it to the show.
Yeah, well, that board that's there, the playfield, we cut it about a week and a half ago, if you can believe that.
Okay.
And got all this on here, and we had some late nights getting it all ready.
Well, you're not the only pinball company that is facing that problem.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
So, no, it looks like a very nice and colorful machine. It looks like an original theme as well.
Yes, sir. It's an original theme, and we've got a great artist. His name is Brad Duke, and so he's done the playfield design and the art. And we haven't announced this publicly yet, but I'll do it right now. John Norris actually joined our team about a month and a half ago.
Okay, and did he have any input on this game that you could immediately utilize?
He did, yeah. So we showed him the shot layout, and he provided feedback on some of the areas. Actually, the ball hold up for the castle, he was advising us kind of different ways we can do that. We ended up going with a magnet, which works really great. We can catch the ball, and then we can, with timing, throw it out the back. And so it lets us capture it, show a video, and then continue to play. And I think John has worked on some games that are kind of in the Deep Root portfolio, and one of those is Merlin's Arcade. And I know that he'd love to complete that game. That's something I hope to do with him. And then just a little bit ago, Dennis Nordman was walking by, and I got to see him again, and he was asking me about the game he was working on with Deep Root, which was Yukon Yeti, and he seems interested in still working on that. And so it's exciting to get to see these folks, and again, just to not let the work of so many people get thrown away. I think there's a lot of value in it, and I hope that we can make something really good of it.
Okay. Is it reasonable to ask for a timeline on this game, or are you not at that stage yet that you can predict like, oh, we expect to do this or that, or
it's hard to predict, and I don't want to be the one that comes out and makes a bunch of promises and then misses these delivery dates and things like that.
which would be very Deadwood-like.
I know, right? So I try to be a little more conservative. I am really hoping that we can get this for sale by the end of the year. I think that's an ambitious goal, but it's one that I'm going to try to get the team to work towards. And if we can hit that, I would be ecstatic.
Right. Now, getting a design finished is one thing.
Yep.
Getting it manufactured
Absolutely.
is a totally different beast.
Oh yeah, it's there are a lot of challenges to overcome.
Is it something that you're going to do yourself, or are you going to source it out to a company, or?
Well, so
if you can't talk about it, we respect it as well. But I'm just curious.
I'm figuring out the process and trying to learn as I go on some of these things. But the plan that I have right now is I've got a small set of equipment that allowed us to build this prototype. But like, for example, like CNCing the playfield, I can't imagine trying to do 100 of those, or 1,000 of those. It's just not feasible for me to do out of my little workshop.
Right.
And so I think that we can essentially refine the design on the prototype manufacturing equipment that I have. And then when I want to get them made in quantity, I'll go to a cabinet shop and I'll say, hey, I need X of these, and then I'll get them made. And then we'll continue to, do the finish ourselves. But I think we're going to be integrating all the components, assembling all the components, and sourcing all the different things. And so I guess that means we're doing the manufacturing, but it doesn't mean that every piece is getting made in-house.
Right. No, well, you can, of course, source things out, but still.
Yeah.
We've seen many startups over the past decades, I would say. And some are struggling to get 10 games out a month. Others 40, 50.
Right.
And if you're Turner Pinball, you're not a startup anymore, and you get to do a couple of hundred a month.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, we've got to start small and learn and grow in a controlled and smart fashion.
Right. Well, I'm very curious to see how this plays. I will play it later on.
I'd love to have you play and get your feedback.
And let's round this up for now, but we're happy to see you, Chris Turner, here at Texas Pinball Festival. I wish you a very pleasant show, and I wish you best of luck.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Chris Turner, for clarifying all of that.
Yeah, good stuff. Well done for recording that.
Thank you. Yeah, and then last but not least, I would say, we had, I got a text and you got a text as well. Jack Guarnieri asked if he could come on the show. And, Jack's a close friend. Both of us.
Long-time friend.
Yeah, exactly.
As we said in our main PINcast, looking back at March, at the Texas Pinball Festival, Jack had lost his voice. So he wasn't actually able to speak to us or do an interview at that time.
Yeah, no.
But as soon as he got back home, he recovered fully and regained his voice, and was able to give us an update on what's been going on with him, with Jersey Jack Pinball, and with the launch of the Godfather, and his views on the state of the business and licensing, amongst many other things.
Right.
So.
Let's hear what Jack has to say.
Indeed.
We are now joined by Jersey Jack Pinball founder Jack Guarnieri, who had a very successful launch of the Godfather at the Texas Pinball Festival, with Jack present in tuxedo, I may add, as well. And welcome, Jack.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
Oh, we're
good
doing
to hear
good.
you, Jack. Yeah, we're doing well, and good to hear your voice back, because at the Texas show, you were certainly you'd lost your voice pretty much, I think.
Yeah, you sounded like a Bee Gee.
Yeah, I think I was channeling Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Where, I was really not in good shape. I don't know what it was. I mean, I've been traveling.
Well, you looked great. You looked...
well, thank you.
Tuxedo covers up a lot, but not the voice.
You are fully recovered now, though.
I'm fully recovered and ready to go to other shows. I'll be in Australia next week, the week after Easter, I guess.
Wow.
Easter week, whatever they call that.
That's for work, is it? I assume. And is there a show down there, or are we just visiting?
There is. There's a show on that weekend. I think the 15th, the 14th, 15th. That weekend there's a show. I'll be there. And then the end of the month, I'll be at Le Treport. And I don't know if you guys will be drinking champagne and eating chocolate with me.
I wish I could be there, but I think it's pretty unlikely, to be honest.
Okay.
It's still up in the air for me.
Okay.
I have an obligation to go to in Italy, but I'm not sure whether I can make it, and then I'll have to see if I can.
Well, you better watch out the obligations in Italy. You know,
before you know it, you get fish in the newspaper wrapped.
Especially with the
make you an offer
Godfather
you couldn't refuse.
out, you know, like, you gotta watch out.
Well, speaking of the Godfather, obviously that was one of the, I would say, many games revealed the past month. How has the reveal of the Godfather been for you?
It's been great, and as we've said before, I work on these things, a few years, couple of years, depending, before the launch. Getting the license, getting all the assets together, so that our designers and all our creative people can actually make something for the assembly line to build. So it's been a while for me, but it was exciting because one of the things I hoped for with this license was bringing new people to the market and to buy pinball. And it's happening. Some of the distributors I talk to tell me things like, we had people just call us up out of the blue to order a Godfather, and they're not on our customer list. We never sold them a game before. So that's pretty cool.
But is the game still appealing to your initial type of customer? Because obviously you started off with much more family-friendly type themes.
How can you say Godfather is not family-friendly?
Well, it's all about the family.
I was going to say.
It's just a different family, that's all.
Yeah. It's, after Guns N' Roses, when you did Guns N' Roses, things changed a bit in that regard.
It's kind of interesting. You have a good point. The people that buy our games, some of them actually said to me, I didn't think I would be interested in the Godfather game until I played the game. Mm. And not all of them said that, because the CE games sold out very quickly. And, I was pleasantly surprised to hear people tell me that at the show and after Texas, I heard from people that said, "Yeah, I ordered a game. I didn't think it would appeal to me. I didn't know how you were going to do it." And then I heard things like, "The game is great. I love it. I love the way it looks. I love the way it plays." And personally, it kind of jogged my memory. I didn't hear that since really Wizard of Oz, where people were surprised. They didn't think they'd like the theme or the integration of the theme into the game. And I'm happy to hear it with Godfather.
It's not an obvious theme for a pinball machine, but again, similar to the Wizard of Oz, you probably had a vision with that.
I did. Again, it's a kind of crazy thing with me. I mean, I love the Wizard of Oz, and I wanted to bring that. As a pinball, we know the story. I wanted to have women and young people discover pinball. And with The Godfather, it's one of my favorite movies. I've seen it, I don't know, hundreds of times. Anytime it's on, sometime if I'm flipping TV, I have to stop and I quote every line, and Joanne just rolls her eyes, and, she just...
Again.
But it's like something, it's like something you love, it's pretty cool. And, Eric and the whole team, I think they did a great job with the game. And, this is the first game where we had Chris French do artwork. I think he did a great job, too.
Yeah, I agree. It looks fantastic. But this is this follows on from Toy Story 4, where you haven't done a sort of base standard edition. Now, Toy Story 4 was limited anyway to a maximum of 6,000 machines. You had like 1,000 collector editions, I think, and 5,000 limited editions. I don't think Godfather's limited in any way, is it? The lower model. So what's the idea with not doing a standard edition anymore? Is it just too much work and everybody wants the full featured version of the game?
Yeah, Martin, I always say the only thing unlimited is aggravation. And I think on the LE of Godfather, we limited to 5,000 games.
Oh, that's limited.
And the CE was 1,000 games.
So it's the same as Toy Story then?
Yeah, it's really the lowest production games that we've ever done are standard games. It's just was a model.
Those are the real limited ones.
Yeah, there really are. I mean, there's only maybe 150 Wizard of Oz standard games, and there's in the hundreds, 200s of all the other ones. I don't think there's anything more than 300 of anything where we did a standard game. And with Dialed In, I think our standard was $6,000 at the time to try to promote operators to put them on location. Yeah. And then operators pretty much bought the CEs, believe it or not, and they bought the LEs because they wanted, I think they wanted, to really say to their customers, hey, we have the best full-featured, most expensive games for you to play. Come on out.
And of course they hold their value as well. So
yeah, and they have,
doesn't really cost them anything in the long run.
Exactly. I mean, the residual value, or if the game appreciates, as a lot of them have. So it didn't make sense to be spending time and money developing a whole art package and everything that goes with another model. So we just dropped it.
Right. Okay. Now, Martin mentioned Toy Story being limited to 6,000 units in total. Is that production completely finished, or is Toy Story still on one line and Godfather on a second?
Well, we're still building Toy Stories as we speak. It'll probably trail off in the next few weeks as we finish orders that we have on the books. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think the plan is to have one line building collector edition Godfather and one line building limited edition Godfather. There'll probably be more when we post pictures, when we make a changeover in coming weeks when we do that.
So going back to Godfather, then, you mentioned about when you've been working on the license for a couple of years or so. Can you tell us about how that came to be? Were you just sort of going through the list of licenses available and you saw that and you knew immediately that would make a great game, or was it something which you'd known was available for a long time and just sort of put it on the back burner in favor of other titles?
Well, I thought about it for a while, the title. I didn't know if the title was available in the category or not. And I reached out to Consumer Products of Paramount, and it was available, and I secured the license. And I was really happy about that. I thought, here's another iconic, amazing movie in the same vein as Wizard of Oz was. Of course, different subject, obviously, but a very revered, epic production. And I thought that if it was treated the right way by the design team and the designer, of course, you could make a really compelling, fun game. You might not think so, but I think the way they did it, they accomplished that.
It's certainly an interesting one. But can I just ask before let John know another question? It does strike me immediately. As soon as you see a game that's licensed on and based on a movie with a large cast of characters, that it's potentially going to be a licensing nightmare getting agreement from all the actors and their estates, if they're no longer with us, in order to show their likenesses. And I know that's certainly been an issue in the past with Al Pacino when it comes to The Godfather. How was that all from your end?
I don't want to say it was easy, but for me it was easy. I didn't have any problem at all. I mean, there were a lot of assets and included in the license, and there were a couple of actors that we wanted to add, and I was able to secure them, and everything was great. Paramount was really great in the whole licensing and the whole approval process, because we have calls pretty much every week with people that license us property, either every week or every other week, and we submit things as they're going along, and we get sometimes different licensors give you different direction for things. Certainly they want to get it approved, and there are different stakeholders at these studios and places that have to see things that you're doing. And I think the important thing for, not really for us, but I think the important thing overall to remember is that you don't own the property. You're just kind of renting it for a little while, and being respectful of it and being respectful of the assets you're giving. I think if you could enhance the license by creating something really great, then I think you've been a great licensee.
Right. Now, you working on securing the license for the Godfather is one thing, but then there is the creative team, Eric, and everybody who has eventually put their forces together to come to the game that it is. But do they have a say in, like, I really don't think that's a game that I would like to do, or are they enthusiastic, or are there, like, do they have choices like, oh, I'd rather do this one than that one? How does that go? I mean, you securing a license, and then what happens then? I mean,
well,
I'm just curious.
Yeah, so we've talked about it a little bit, and I actually talked about it a little bit in Texas when I didn't have a voice. I said, Eric's first game was Pirates of the Caribbean. I wanted him to do that. And handing somebody a game that's kind of, gee, that title's been done before. How do I do it differently, or how do I make it great? And I think he did, and the whole team did. And I said, well, don't worry, your next game will be an original title. And that was great. And then the next game came along, and I went to Eric and I said, I got another title for you to do. Great. What is it? Guns N' Roses. What? Thought you said it's going to be an original title. Well, listen, it's really hard to make the same title a different way, and you're really good at that, and you've proven that with Pirates. And what am I going to say? I wanted Eric to do it, and I think he and the team did a great job, and it's a great selling game, and I love it. It's bringing the concert home. When I went to him with The Godfather, he said to me, that's good. I never saw that movie.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. I never saw the movie. I said, okay, this is going to be interesting. So
you bought him a DVD box.
Well, he climbed into it, and he became an expert where he's asking me trivia questions where I was almost stumped a few times too. So it's nice to have people that love what they're working on. You're really challenged if you give something to somebody and they don't like it, and you expect them to do a really great job with it. I think it's a lot better if they buy into the theme and they buy into what the story is, and then they get very creative on how they're going to tell the story of that property through playing pinball.
It does seem like you're almost developing a family of your own, of people who work on the games, who are not actually directly employed by Jersey Jack, such as Slash as one, and Mark Tremonti as another. Who all seem to be,
Frenchy.
But
we
people
do pay
who
him.
are,
Pay him in
assume he's a contractor, but Slash and Mark seem to be contributing music to various games now, which is nice to hear, because obviously they're talented people. But how did Mark? I mean, I know Slash is a friend of Eric now, but how did Mark come to be involved in this?
Well, I know Slash about 15 years, so he actually, that story. I mean, he had to convince me to make Guns N' Roses. I was kind of not. I think we talked about that. I was kind of not on my radar. But after I went to a concert at Giant Stadium years ago, I said, "Yep, we really do need to do a Guns N' Roses game. It would be, especially the way we do it with the assets and you have the amazing sound and video and everything like that." With Mark Tremonti, I mean, we're friends since about 2000 when he was lead guitarist with Creed and founding member with Creed, and he was a customer of Pinball Sales. We used to have this guy call us up and order parts for like Indiana Jones and different games, and he always seemed like he was on a bus, and we thought he was a bus driver. And we thought he was a bus driver. He would call the shop and we'd talk to him, and me or somebody else in the shop would talk to him for like an hour or two at a time, believe it or not. And he'd always be on a bus. And okay, whatever, you know. And one time I think me or one of the guys working for me at the time was listening to Creed in the background because it was one of our favorite groups and it would be playing in the shop. And he remarked about the song, and then we kind of discovered who he was. And I met him that September of 2000 at Jones Beach before a concert, and we've been friends ever since. He's a really great guy. He's involved in a lot of charitable works, and he's got the project now with the National Down Syndrome effort because his daughter was born with Down syndrome. So he's doing his Frank Sinatra, Tremonti Sings Sinatra album. All the proceeds are going to that. So we're involved in that effort as well. And it's just a really great person, and he loves pinball. I mean, he's a pinball guy. So any contribution he can make, you know, when you hear the music that accompanies our logo at the beginning of a game, there's a riff there from one of his songs. I think the song is "Waste Your Time," and I picked that riff with him. That's the music that accompanies our logo when it's played in the attract mode, if you have the attract mode sound on. So, and that goes back to 2011 with Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, great.
I got no question.
Oh.
if you were waiting for that. No, I was just listening, and a very entertaining story. Thank you, Jack, for that. So
yeah, I mean, Mark's, between Slash and Mark, it's nice to see people that are pinball fanatics that want to contribute to pinball. And the community is really great that way. I think you'd agree. There are a lot of people that just want to see more pinball, and I think it's great to see a lot of games come out. I wish everybody the best. I think more pinball is better for everybody.
So it's been a while since we spoke. How has your role at the company changed since we last spoke, or hasn't it? Are you still doing what you've been doing for the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, look, every day I'm involved with what's going on in the company. Typically, I'm involved with Zoom calls or visits to the factory or being at a show or something like that. With game development, I'm involved with the development team all week, every week, between things that get submitted to the licensor and how they get submitted, and making sure things get approved, or watching what's going on as far as suggestions to games, selecting people to work on different games, artists and different members of the team. So it keeps me busy. I'm happy.
It almost sounds like you're a relationship manager then, as much as anything else, and you deal with the relationship between the company, the licensors, external contractors, and people within the company as well. Yeah. I mean, and we have 3 games typically in development at any one time. So multiply it by 3, you have 3 teams of people designing games, and you have to figure out timelines,
the good thing is that we have a lot of really great people in the company to do a lot of things. It's not like in the beginning where, it was pretty thin and you had so many different jobs for so many different people. At least we have, a good amount of people that are very talented to figure things out. What's getting ordered, what the bill of material is, what the vendors are, vendor relationships. There's obviously a lot involved in building a pinball machine that a lot of people have come to learn over the past 10 and 12 years.
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say, Jonathan and I were both certainly learnt some lessons when we went around the factory with Eric, and he was showing us all the various test fixtures and mechanisms that had to be built for every new game. And it's an aspect of the game development process that you don't really appreciate unless you do it for yourself. So, I'm no doubt that the people don't necessarily appreciate the sheer amount of work that goes into developing any new title. They just think, it uses the same parts as the previous game, so sort of stand-up targets, it's got pop bumpers and all that kind of stuff. But everything is different on every game, and it's a credit to the team, I think, at the factory, and I'm sure this is true of other manufacturers as well, but that they have to build all these assemblies, all these test fixtures, program them as well, to write the custom code in order to do the test procedures. It's very, very intense, I should say. And I think Jonathan and I think it's fair to say, were both impressed by the amount of work that's required just to test the system.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good point.
So, now I do have a question.
Good.
So production for The Godfather is similar to the one of, or limited to the same numbers as Toy Story. Between Toy Story and the announcement of Godfather, that's been like 9 months. So that's the first time for you to announce a new title within a year, not necessarily the same calendar year, but a 12-month period. Does that mean that we can expect the next title also in a 9-month period, or maybe not?
Well, I've been on this show before, and I said yes to that question before, and I was wrong. So it's the plan. The plan is to have another game in 9 or 10 months after Godfather. That's the plan. We know what happens to plans, but you have to aim at something. You have to have a target to aim at, or you don't know what you're shooting for, right? So we're diligently working on that every day.
Now, one of the things that we always ask everybody in the industry when they're releasing a new game, or indeed developing an upcoming one, is about the ongoing supply chain issues and the availability of parts, getting them shipped around the world. How has that been for Jersey Jack Pinball? Obviously, it was a problem at some point, but is that easing now? Is the situation improving? Is it slow? How is it about getting even things like chips for boards or items from the Far East?
Right. Well, it's been better. I don't think we're going back to where we were 2 years ago or 3 years ago, certainly with 100 ships at a port waiting to be unloaded, that kind of thing, thank goodness. But it's managing vendor relationships and managing expectations and trying to be on time with people. But if we're running late, you can't expect the vendor to always pick up the slack and rush and complete something in some kind of time frame. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. And as far as inventory and buying, not just for us, but for everybody, there was a thing years ago, I remember people talked about it and they preached it. It was just in time inventory. And you wouldn't have anything on your floor until it was ready to go out the door, ready to be produced, assembled, manufactured, and it would go out. And then when people realized that wasn't a possible thing anymore, ordering went differently. It became just-in-case inventory. So people ordered extra, just in case. Just in case you got extra orders, just in case one vendor didn't make something and you had a second vendor to make the part. So I think what happened with the whole COVID episode, I don't think it's a secret. I don't think I'm a genius to say it, but a lot of people over-ordered a lot of things. And right now in the world is absorbing a lot of things inventory-wise. And then if you have a little bit of a slowdown in certain segments of the economy, it takes longer to absorb the inventory that people have. But really for us, I think we're in really good shape. We have a lot of really great people that are buying, that are managing vendor relationships, and we have really great vendors that care about what we do. We pay very well, so they don't have to worry about, am I going to get paid on time, or, I mean, we'll take care of everybody, which is really important, and the loyalty and the relationships are really treasured over so many years with the vendors that we have.
Right. So does it also mean that when designing a new game, the creative team keeps in mind, like, okay, if we want the game to do something like this, we need chip X, but that's difficult to get, so let's see if we can work around that and get a chip that can do something similar, but it's better or easier to obtain.
Yeah, I don't know if it revolves around chips or board sets or things like that, but everything in the world is changing all the time, and you have to stay ahead of it if you can. You don't want to have, there's certain things you could buy a good inventory of so that it can get you through 2 or 3 games. And then there are certain things when you get to that next cycle that you have to jump to the next, rope kind of thing, swing to the next rope, and now you're on the next version of whatever you're using. And, electronics is probably a good example because that's always changing. Pretty much a lot of other things in the game that are molded or made out of plastic or wood or metal, that's a whole different type of thing. It's a lot easier most times to get those parts.
Right, okay. Now, speaking of parts, there is a limited edition for the Godfather and a collector's edition. Who comes up with the ideas what to put on the collector's edition? And in this case, you have like these golden colored leg covers that go onto the cabinet. That's not a very typical pinball part. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen that before. So who comes up with that and gets that approved internally, and then you have to go to the licensor and discuss whether they will like it as well. But first of all, the creative process, like, hey, how about we do these covers for the legs? I'm just curious,
Well, Eric and the design team, they don't sleep much, so they think of these things in the middle of the night. They talk to each other, they bounce them off each other. We discuss them. A lot of times when I hear these things, I kind of laugh, but I try not to say never, and see where they go and see if it's possible. And you have some expensive and extensive tooling charges for some things you create sometimes. So you want to get the most bang for your buck for what you're trying to create. And we're always trying to create something new, something that's going to give our games the wow factor, something that might not have been done before. And while you think that's challenging, the truth is they have so many more ideas that they could do and that they will do in the future that it just amazes me what happens and what goes on a pinball machine.
Now, obviously, the last few games have all been licensed titles. You have to go all the way back to, I think, Dialed In, before you had the first unlicensed title. Do you see yourself going down that route again in the future? I mean, obviously, it's a hard sell to convince people of a brand new idea and introduce them to a new world of which they are totally unfamiliar. Although, obviously, you just said that Eric was unfamiliar with The Godfather when he got it, but he obviously picked it up very quickly. So, do you imagine, or can you see attempting an unlicensed title again in the near future?
Well, you guys know me a long time as never say never. Really, I don't know. I mean, I would be open to it if there was something really compelling. But we know the challenges involved. We knew the challenge with Dialed In,
and you're seeing it with other companies as well.
Well, there are other companies making original title games, which is commendable and admirable, and it's great. At the time with Dialed In, I do remember I said, probably to you guys and other people who would listen, to me the license was Pat Lawler and John Yowsey at the time. That was the license. And today, I still hear great things about Dialed In. A lot of people say it's one of our best shooting games. It's a fun game. It's something creative. So sometimes you need to wait until, I guess, something gets appreciated after a while. I remember there was a time where people were canceling Pirates because of a spinning disc. It wasn't 3 discs, it was 1 disc. And now Pirates is this revered game that people search for and are willing to pay a lot of money for. So, the pinball community knows what they want, but just like all humans, we may not know what we want right away. Sometimes I need to play it, taste it, touch it, feel differently about it. And with a license, if I tell you we're doing The Godfather, then you can have your imagination run wild and think of all kinds of things that might be in the game. If I tell you some original idea, you might say, okay, well, I don't know what that's going to be. I don't know what that is. So that's the wow factor of a really great license. Okay, and I think I'll just finish my thought here. I think it's great to do an original title. It's not for everybody. I mean, you have to be very creative. It's probably as difficult to do an original title as a licensed title because you have a blank piece of paper and you need to create the whole storyline, the characters, and everything that goes with it.
Well, it's more risky, isn't it? And you need to be in the situation where you can afford to take those risks. You can try something and if it doesn't sell in big numbers, it doesn't sink the company. You need to be that financially stable. So, I mean, if you're producing one game every 9 months to a year, and you're expecting to have 9 months to a year of production out of it, then you can't afford to have an unlicensed title which doesn't catch the public's imagination.
Right. And look, maybe there are some people that look at a license and say, well, it's difficult because I have to pay a royalty for the license, and then I have to answer to somebody for what we do. But I could tell you from where I am, anyway, my opinion, that's probably some of the best money invested is in the license, really. Having done a licensed game and unlicensed game, it was just as difficult to do Dialed In, to be honest with you, as doing The Hobbit or anything else we've done.
Right. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, which you did touch on in your seminar and was raised from the audience, was about your relationship with Scorbit and the fact that you've apparently severed that relationship after several years of integrating Scorbit into your game software, and it now no longer works. You said at the time that you had other plans for doing similar kind of things. Could you expand on that a little bit, or explain why Scorbit, for those people who use it and enjoyed using it, why that's no longer available to them in their Jersey Jack games?
Well, let me tell the story, not related to Scorbit. I think they're really great people and they have a great system, and I respect them, and I respect all the people that use it. when we first started the company, we had an opportunity to select a board system that would run our games. And we investigated it, and we talked about it, and we decided it probably will run our games, but we're better off with a known than a known unknown. And what that means is the old, in quotes, controlling your destiny, right? Being able to create your own, yes, it's a little bit more difficult and it might be a little bit more expensive. But I think that's the way we're going. We're going to have our own system at some point, and it'll be the way we want it, and we'll control it. And people will love it or people will hate it. And I think there'll be more people that love it, but that's where we're going.
But why would you cut ties with Scorebit sort of almost instantaneously before your system is ready to roll out?
I don't know. You're going to have to answer that one yourself. You know, I think when you have an opportunity to do something, you really need to do it. And perhaps what we're working on would give us more effort and more time to work on what we're working on than working on something with somebody else. So take the people that were working on cooperating with the party and have those people work on something that will be ours.
So now the question is, who are those people? who are working on the
I don't know. That
project?
sounds like one of your trivia questions for a year or two from now.
Okay. I don't know if Martin has any other questions, but we have a very lengthy show. And I don't want to cut you short, Jack, but...
No, you beat me up enough, I guess. So.
Well, thank you for joining us and on this and taking time out of your Sunday, your Palm Sunday afternoon or early evening, as it is with you, I guess.
I'm gonna go back downstairs and have some cannolis now.
Good for you.
Yeah, and I assume you have a Godfather machine at home. Yes.
Yes.
You do. Right. Okay.
Yes.
Good. Oh well, I hope that's a hit with the rest of the family then as well. And
it is. It's a hit. I like the way you say that. It's a hit.
I was going to say
the game is a big hit. That's for sure.
I was going to say take the cannoli, but leave the gun.
Take the pinball.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you for
guys.
joining us and bringing us up to date on all the excitement going on at Jersey Jack Pinball.
Thank you,
Jack Guarnieri. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. Pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Well, we hope you enjoyed listening to these 4 interviews. This bonus Pincast from based around the Texas Pinball Festival 2023. We hope you found them interesting and enlightening, because we certainly enjoyed doing them.
Right. So that rounds it up for this episode. As always, we'll be back with the regular PINcast at the beginning of May, looking back at all the events that happen in the pinball industry during the month of April.
Absolutely right. So until then, from me, Martin Erb of Pinball News,
and me, Jonathan Houston of Pinball Magazine,
we wish you a great month, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.